Alrighty, so today we are going to finish up the review of match week number 23, looking at the last six games that happened on Saturday night. And let's jump straight into it because obviously I'm pretty sure everybody are waiting for me to talk about the Hell is Real derby between Cincinnati and the Columbus Crew. And why wouldn't it? I mean, it just feels like anytime when these two Ohio teams meet against each other in this Hell is Real derby, it's always going to deliver. And despite the fact that there was a weather delay in this game, and there was also a weather delay in the Charlotte NYCFC game that is, it was definitely worth the wait because this game was absolute cinema. And I'm really hoping we get to see a matchup like this in the playoff as well. This, of course, is the final matchup in the regular season. Though, if you're a Cincinnati fan, I don't think you want to see Columbus in the playoffs, especially this feels like it was almost a replica of what we saw in the Eastern Conference Final a couple years ago. Cincinnati had a 2-0 lead in this game. Looked like everything was going to go well. And then the meltdown happened. And yeah, the rest is history after that. But that being said, they did get off to a great start in this one. In fact, just 42 seconds into this game, Pavel Buka would score from angle to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. 4 minutes later, Evander would score. He scored here to make it 2-0, an absolute banger. And I have something that Evander can score from that range. He just makes that look so easy when he score like that. But there was no doubt that Cincinnati was in dreamland early on. I mean, Columbus, they barely got it even into this game, and all of a sudden, they found themselves 2-0 down against Cincinnati. But if there's one thing we gotta say about Columbus is that you cannot count this team out. Even if they get rattled in the first 5 minutes in this one, you always hope that there's always a chance that Wilfred Nancy's side will find a way to crawl themselves back into this game. In fact, in the 10th minute, Russell Rowe had a chance to get one back, but he puts that one wide. But besides that chance, it was all Cincinnati, at least in the first half hour into this game. They have completely dictated this game, just completely dominate this game and not allow Columbus to play the game that they have. Obviously, that kind of helps when you're up 2-0 in the game. They try to make it 3-0, but Schulte denied Kamara, but it recycled. And Danke had a chance to make it free, but he puts it into the Bailey before Schulte denied Orejano from close as Cincinnati was pressing hard for the third goal. You would then have a rare chance with Columbus, but he missed that one high. But then in the 42nd minute, Columbus got one back. It's Diego Rossi. He scored from Aliu and Nagby to make it 2-1 in this one, and this is when the game really turned. And we saw this kind of coming with the way that anytime when you have a big game like this, we talk about how goals can really change game, but this feels like it's kind of that type of game. It does sound like a cliche, but it does definitely change the game because this game really took a turn after this goal was scored. Gasek would then miss high on the header from the corner. You can sense that the momentum was clearly with Columbus. They were looking to try to take the lead before halftime, and they do. As in the third minute of stoppage time, Max Arston would score from Sean Bowes to tie the game up at two apiece. It took a fortunate deflection there, but nevertheless, I mean, just like that, in a game where for the majority of the first half it was dominated by Cincinnati, Columbus had crawled themselves back in the game. As you didn't have any doubt in terms of what Wilfred Nancy saw can do. And really, besides the thousands of crew fans that travel to Cincinnati to watch this game going absolutely nuts, the rest of the fans, the 25,000 inside TKL, they were stunned silent. And I'm pretty sure some of them had probably have some deja vu and some bad memories in terms of what happened in the Eastern Conference Final. That is because it feels like it's all over again in terms of the Eastern Conference Final. Cincinnati looked like they were comfortable with a 2-0 lead, and they quickly gave that away in quick stretch. But we do head to halftime, tie at two apiece in this Hell is Real derby in the second half. So Zwatsky would miss one from close as Columbus kind of picked up where they left off near the end of the first half and looked for the lead. Cincinnati, they just been on the back foot ever since they conceded the first goal. They just never able to get themselves back into the game. And then in the 59th minute, they would concede the third goal of the game. In fact, I actually got the wrong team name here, so let me just quickly change that. But yeah, it's Miles Robinson that, of course, scored the own goal here. He was trying to cut this one out from a dangerous cross, but unfortunately puts it into his own net. But nevertheless, Columbus deserved that lead. I mean, they have just completely take a 180 in terms of how this game was when they got the goal back and now lead 3-2. Russell Rowe tried to make it four, but he puts it wide from close. You can definitely hear a pin drop, mostly inside TKL Stadium, because right now I think the fans they're giving PTSD in terms of what we saw in the Eastern Conference Final, because this is exactly what happened in the Eastern Conference Final with Columbus just completely took the game to their favors and turned it completely on its head, and now it seems like they're pressing for a fourth one while Cincinnati is just absolutely crumbling right now. Miazga would then heads it wide from the free kick before Denke would puts it wide from close range. So you kind of sense that Cincinnati finally shake off that rallying feeling, and now they're trying to get the equalizer. Evander would hit it right to Schulte before Kamar would miss wide from close. And if there's one thing I will also say about Pat Nolan's side, yes, they could sometimes get rattled, but there's that strong mentality in their field as well, and you can definitely sense that they were pressing to try to tie the game up at 3. Rossi would then puts it wide from close as time winds down. Columbus was looking to try to seal this one and really kind of put the air out of this one. They weren't really giving too much chances for Cincinnati to get themselves the equalizer. And in fact, in the third minute start time, to just make sure to turn the lights out of this Hellsville derby, they would score a fourth goal as Harboni would choose a great time to score his first career MLS goal to put the lights out at TQO for this Hellsville derby to make it 4-2 in this one, and that would be the final score of this game. The shots in this one: 14 shots completed, 11 that Columbus had, 3 shots on goal for the 4 that Cincinnati had, 7 shots off target for the 6 that Columbus had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Cincinnati has, and both teams had 50% for both of these teams. And like I said, I want this in the playoffs. I really do. I mean, when you see both of the team, and there's a reason why I've said all this season that yeah, these two Ohio teams, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and there is going to be a team both out of these teams, but besides Inter Miami and even Nashville, in case that they're going to be pretty much the top dog in the Eastern Conference this year. They're going to be contending, and it could be once again maybe a bloodbath again with the way that I've said before. Eastern Conference seems like it's a much tougher conference to get through than we see in the West, and it feels like it's happening again in this one. I mean, this was a game that is just playing such a high level between two really class team, and like I said, do not be surprised we might see a matchup like this in the playoffs. I mean, if you're Cincinnati, I'm pretty sure you hope that that's not the case because yeah, Columbus has kind of have a way in these big games like this always tend to have their numbers in terms of getting the win, but we'll see whether or not that is going to be the case. I hope it is because as a neutral, this would be just absolute popcorn material if we once again see this matchup in the playoffs this season. But that being said, moving on in the next one. So this game also started a little bit late. In fact, this game actually started later than this one. I think this game kicked off around like 8:30. This one didn't kick off until 9 o'clock. But it's also kind of a desperation derby because both of these teams they kind of desperately need to get a win. For Charlotte, they need to get a win to stop this bleak thing that they've been going through, and for NYCFC, they need a win because for pretty much this entire season, they are probably the most inconsistent team this year. I mean, it feels like every time when they win a game, the next game is going to be a loss. So, to no surprise that in the previous game when they did get the win against Toronto, that everybody saw this coming. The fact that yeah, NYCFC is going to lose this one. Now, early on, not much really happened early in this one. It feels like both of these teams trying to get themselves into this game after that long delay, and by the time it did so, Charlotte gets the 1-0 lead as Tugamati. He scored from Bio and Zaha to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. I gotta say, Tugamati, he's gonna be a guy that he knows that he's gonna have the more of the responsibility now that Patrick Ajiman had departed to Derby County, and he's definitely paying Dean Smith favor by scoring here to make it 1-0. It was also the first shot of the game as well, and the first time really either of these teams look good on the attacking end. Wolf did look to respond, but his shot was blocked before Martinez tried to chip over Kalina, but puts that one high in the 35th minute. NYCFC started to take control of this game and were pressing for the equalizer. Martinez then had a shot that was clear off the line, but it falls to Ojeda, who hits it right to Kalina in the 38th minute. I mean, yeah, that moment just kind of sums up NYCFC in general. There's just been so many times this season where they have chances that should have been in the back of the net, and it hasn't. And in many ways, Kalina's probably very fortunate that that was not finished because if that one went in, that would have been on him fully. I mean, he basically played just a hospital ball pass there and gave the ball away, and just like that NYCFC had a chance to tie it up, and was very fortunate that his defender was able to clear that one off the line and save him there, and really kind of owe him some dinner after this game as well. Westwood would then puts it high from long range. I say dinner, but maybe kind of late night snack with the way that this game didn't end until close to 11 o'clock. But we do head to halftime with Charlotte leading 1-0. In the second half, Freeze would deny Tokumati from close before Tuoluma heads it wide from close range. Charlotte was definitely on the front foot. They were looking to try to get the second goal. Fernandez would then fires it just wide at the top of the arc, and then Morales would puts it wide from close in the 58th minute. So scratch that. Now NYCFC would on the front foot and pressing to try to get the equalizer. O'Toole would miss wide from long range before Martinez puts it wide from long range in the 76th minute. In the 78th minute, Morales would hit it high to Kalina, and again NYCFC continued to knock on the door to try to get the equalizer, and you just kind of had a sense Charlotte would start to hang on to this one nothing lead, and that yeah, just kind of had a sense that there was that doubt again. This is another team that has had issue this season when it comes to close out game, but I'm pretty sure in the 81st minute, every single Charlotte fans inside that stadium had a huge sigh of relief when this happened. As in the 81st minute, they would make it 2-0 and pretty much close this one out. As Tervin Vargas would score a banger from the volley to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. It was really against the run of play because NYCFC had all the momentum coming out of the break and just an absolute backbreaker for NYCFC. Like you all put all the pressure in the world to try to get the tie and go, and then you just give up on the other end. And it's no surprise that in the last couple of minutes of this game, there wasn't really much that happened. That was the dagger for Charlotte to get a massive 2-0 win in this one at home. The shots in this one, only 7 shots compared to the 15 that NYCFC had. 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Charlotte has. 3 shots off target for the 6 that NYCFC had. 6 shots on his block for the 1 that Charlotte has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Charlotte has in this game. And for NYCFC, the narrative continue. I mean, they're just in this vicious cycle of just keep winning, losing, winning, losing, winning, losing every single game, and it must be driving NYCFC fans nuts. And I would say that in this game, they actually didn't play badly in this one. I thought for the most part of this one, they were actually the better team in this one against Charlotte. But how many times we said before, when you don't put your chances away just because you're the better team, you're not always going to win the game, and that's kind of the case in this one. Charlotte was the more clinical side, NYCFC wasn't, and as a result, Charlotte gets the massive 3 points. So hopefully, this might be the win. You would think that Charlotte maybe can turn their season around because, like I said, they've been on a vicious cycle of losing for the past 2 or 3 months. We'll see whether or not if this is a win that they desperately needed to kind of turn their season around. But that being said, I am now going to change boards and look at the last 4 games to finish up the review of match week number 23. All right, so moving on is RSL versus the Houston Dynamo. So I mentioned before this was a big playoff 6-pointer because both of these teams were right around the bubble for the playoff race. And in the end, it's RSL, the one that is able to get the big playoff 6-pointer. And as I said, they are well and truly in the race in terms of making the playoffs. So I will say that this was kind of a game where it was a tale of 2 halves. RSL with a better team in the first half, but in the second half, they had to absorb a ton of pressure from this Houston Dynamo side and barely were able to hang on to get the 1-0 win. Now, in the first half, Gonzalez had a shot that was clear off the line, but it actually fell right back to Ojeda, and he was absolutely rocked by Jonathan Bonnet as a result. Gozo would then miss wide from close. RSL definitely shot out of the cannon early in this one. They were pressing for the opener immediately, and that's kind of what you want to see if you're an RSL fan, knowing that this is a desperation kind of game where it's a playoff 6-pointer. You want to get off to a good start, and that's exactly what they did. The first shot for the Dynamo did see Andrade hits it right to Cabral before Ojeda puts it wide from long range, and then Bond denied Gonzalez from close. Andrade's had a chance in the 25th minute, but he puts it wide off the volley as RSL continued to press hard to try to get the opening goal. They were leading the shot 9-2 25 minutes in. Yeah, they were putting a lot of shots in this one. They were all on point of trying to get 20 shots at least in this one. But as I said, that would kind of quickly slow down heading into the second half, especially with the way the Dynamo really took control of this one. But before that, Ponce would miss wide on the header on the doorstep of goal before Bond denied Luna as that shot took a wicked deflection there in the 41st minute. But then just 1 minute later, pressure finally paid off for RSL as William Agata would score his second goal for RSL to make it 1-0 in favor of the Hose. And like I said, it's been coming. I mean, RSL was putting a lot of pressure. You just kind of feel like it's inevitable before they get the opening goal, and that's exactly what they did. Ponce did look to look to answer, but he puts it right to Cabral before McGlynn puts it wide from long range in the second man stoppage time. As Dynamo has responded well, they were trying to tie it late with some late pressure in the first half, but we do head to halftime with RSL leading 1-0. And that late pressure by the Houston Dynamo would kind of foreshadow what we see in the second half, because in the second half it was kind of the reverse in terms of what we saw. It was the visitor that were now the more dominant side. It started in the 50th minute with Anali puts it high from long range before Ponce had a shot that took a deflection, or actually took a deflection, and it actually goes on to the post as well. Bartlow would then hits it right to Cabral. The Dynamo definitely has started the second half the better side. They were pressing for the equalizing goal. Escobar would hit the side netting in the 66th before Cabral would deny Andrade from close in the 69th minute. Rafael Cabral was big in this game, and he continues to become one of the more underrated goalkeeper in this league, a guy that hasn't really been given enough credit of how good he's been. And I think it's safe to say that once McMath does come back with this team, and I think he's pretty close to coming back for this team for RSL, I don't think he's gonna get his starting spot back. I mean, Cabral has been absolutely amazing for Real Salt Lake this season, but there was no doubt that the Dynamo, they are pounding on the door to try to get the equalizer. RSL was just hanging on for dear life. They were on the ropes with all the pressure that they've been have to face. Escobar would then puts it over from close before Ponce would head it wide from close in the 86th minute. But you just kind of had a sense up to this point, when you are missing so many chances like the Dynamo has, there's that doubt. That is this just going to be one of those nights for the Dynamo where they just aren't able to get that equalizer because they're just being wasteful in front of goal. And in the first minute of stoppage time, Pio looked to try to end it, and what a way this would have been to end the game. I mean, this would have been the goal of the week automatically, because he went on his bike there trying to score, but he was absolutely raw by Bond in that moment. And despite the fact that RSL weren't able to get that second goal, more importantly, they held on in this one. They won 1-0 in this one. The shots in this one pretty even. 17 shots compared to 18 that the Dynamo has in this one. Again, most of the shots for RSL came in the first half. Most of the shots for the Dynamo came in the second half. 4 shots on goal for the 5 that RSL had. 2 shots off target for the 9 that the Dynamo has. 3 shots that was blocked for the 8 that RSL had. And possession-wise, 44% possession compared to 56% possession that the Dynamo has in this one. But like I said, for RSL, while it's not pretty, in a playoff 6-pointer like that, in a game that they desperately need 3 points to keep themselves within the playoff race, they got exactly that, and they'll take it. But for the Houston Dynamo, this has to be very frustrating, because I don't think they play a bad game. In fact, I thought they played very well in this one, especially in the second half, putting all that pressure. But they just kind of had the San Jose Earthquakes disease in this one. Couldn't finish, even when their life depends on it, and that's why they didn't get anything out of this game. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Rapids and the Vancouver Whitecaps. And I gotta say, what is going on with the Vancouver Whitecaps? I mean, I think that while some people kind of saw it coming with the way that, maybe they started to run out of gas a little bit, and maybe the Cinderella story has started to turn pumpkin for this Vancouver Whitecaps team, I thought with the way that they were going to get themselves most of their starters back. I mean, they were missing still a couple of starters, but they were having most of their best player in this one, and they just kind of lay an egg in this one against the Rapids. So I will say that this was just one of those games for the Colorado Rapids where, Colorado, they're another one of those teams that they're just so unpredictable. I mean, you just never know what kind of Rapids team would show up in a game. There's one time you can see a Rapids team that does well this season, and then there's times where they just look like a team that just completely lost and doesn't look like a playoff contender. And I think we got the good Rapids team in this one, and certainly Rapids fan were happy that they got the better Rapids team in this one, because my oh my, they were all over Vancouver in this one. It could have been more ugly in terms of the score line with all the chances that they had in this game against the Whitecaps. And that all started in the 12th minute as Calvin Harris would score for Mihajlovic and Ted Kutubietro to make it 1-0 in favor of the Rapids. It's been kind of coming with the way that the Rapids were on the front foot early. They started promisingly and was rewarded. White did look to answer, but he heads it wide, and then the post denying Roland from close in the 25th minute. Mihajlovic would then puts it wide from long range. The Rapids definitely has the momentum again. They were looking to try to get the second goal, and they got it in the 30th minute as Navarro would score from Mihajlovic and Harris to make it 2-0 in favor of the Rapids. Again, as I said, it feels like we're getting the good Rapids side in this one. We're getting the Rapids side that, if this is the Rapids side that we of course would see for the rest of the season, they can definitely easily be a dark horse in in the league. But again, this is the problem with the Rapids, and maybe in some ways, kind of the frustration if you're a Rapids fan, the fact that this version of Rapids doesn't show up every single game. But at the same time, you're just kind of wondering what in the world is going on with the Vancouver Whitecaps because they're getting absolutely shelled in this one. I mean, again, in some way, you kind of saw it coming with the amount of games that they've been playing. It feels like we're starting to see your typical kind of thing where MLS team when they lose a big game in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as they did against Cruz Azul in the final, that hey they go for a bit of a downward turn as a result, and especially with the way that the Whitecaps don't really have it as good of a depth as it is in, you just kind of had a sense maybe this team is starting to run out of gas, and that's bad news for Jasper Sorensen's side consider we're still two-third into the season. But I also would say that if you ask any Whitecaps fan, there was a lot of alarm bells with the way that their defense in the last couple of games has just been really awful. They have conceded a lot of goals in the last couple of games. Navarro then looked for another, but he was denied by Taco on the header. Uvik would then miss fly on the header in the 39th minute, but then a penalty was given to the Rapids as Berhalter brought down Kutibietro in the box, and you know when things are not going right, when even Sebastian Berhalter is making mistakes. He's been considered to be one of the best player in the league, and there's a reason why he got called up by the national team. But yeah, here you just this is a mistake you just don't see Berhalter make when you saw him play in the first half of the season. And yeah, the penalty was given to the Rapids, a chance for the Rapids to take a commanding 3-0 lead. It was not taken because Takoko was able to deny Navarro from the spot here. And yeah, I kind of saw this one coming when Navarro tried to do the starter step. You never like when players do the starter step. It kind of always drives me crazy of the fact that yes, I understand that you're trying to maybe catch the goalkeeper, trying to maybe go early and then you tuck in the other way, but more times or not, we have seen nowadays goalkeeper they're not going to take the bite with that starter step. And in that moment, Takaoka, he just kind of stood on his ground. He was not fooled by the starter step there, and once he was not fooled, you just kind of had a sense that Navarro knew that he was screwed, and he just kind of put a weak shot that was easily saved by Takaoka there. But nevertheless, that was really kind of the only downside for the Rapids in the first half. It was a perfect first half for them as they leave it 2-0. But in the second half, they would make it 3-0 in this one. As Maxone would score from Mihajlovic to make it 3-0 in favor of the Rapids. A little bread and butter coming back from the Colorado Rapids. They have for a long time have been one of the best set piece taker in the league. Obviously, Minnesota has kind of took their crown this season of how crazy they've been in terms of the restart. But nevertheless, that's just kind of show a little bit of the old Colorado Rapids being a very good set East team. But yeah, just like that, it's 3-0 in this game, and there's not a lot of shock or fluke about this 3-0 lead. Colorado has by far been the better team in this one compared to the Whitecaps. White did look to respond, but he was robbed by Stefan in the 64th minute before Navarro would hit it right to Taco in the 67th minute, and then he puts it wide from the corner after just another bad giveaway there for Vancouver, who just again, they just does not seem like themselves in this game whatsoever. Harris then had a volley that was clear off the line before Navarro heads it wide from close range. The Whitecaps defense pretty much completely AWOL in this one. Like I said, if it wasn't for the Rapids being even more clinical and Takoka making some big save, this could have been 5 or 6-0 in favor of the Rapids up to this point, and that's not even an exaggeration. Stefan would then deny White on a low shot cross in the 76th minute before Navarro would hit the side netting in the 78th minute. Berhalter would then hits one right to Stefan in the third minute of stoppage time, but in the end, the Colorado Rapids, a dominant win in this one against the Vancouver Whitecaps. They win 3-0 in this one. The shots in this one, 16 shots for the 12 that the Whitecaps had. 7 shots on goal for the 2 that the Whitecaps had. 4 shots off target for the 5 that Vancouver has. Both teams had 4 shots on his block, and possession-wise, 43% possession compared to 57% possession that the Vancouver Whitecaps has in this game. And is there maybe panic time in Vancouver right now with the way that this is not going so well for Jasper Sorensen's side. I mean, again, I think as much as we're so amazed in terms of what the Whitecaps did in the beginning of the season. This is also where I think for many people they kind of saw it coming with the way that they play relatively well in the beginning of the season, but did they peak too soon? because we always have this discussion of you want to always play at your best every single game, but you also want to kind of save that at least when the playoff time is about to start, because if you peak too soon and you kind of stumbling down the line and not heading into the playoffs in a relatively good form, yeah, it feels like the Vancouver Whitecaps are heading to that stage, and that would be such a disappointment too, because what a season it's been for the Vancouver Whitecaps. But now it just feels like this is the downward turn that they go through, and now this is where Jasper Sorensen will have to prove that yeah, he still got it, and he still has a chance to turn things around, because if it doesn't turn things around for this Whitecaps team, they are gonna tumble down the standings before you know it, and we would pretty much completely forgot what they did in the first half of the season. I mean, we'll still remember the legendary CONCACAF Champions Cup final run that they had, but when it comes to what they did in the first half of the season, that could be quickly forgotten if they doesn't turn this really bad run of form that they've been in the last couple of weeks. Really, all started with them exiting from the CONCACAF Champions Cup final and losing that one in a humiliating fashion. Um, and have not looked the same kind of Whitecaps team we saw in the beginning of the season after this one. Now, moving on into the next game, we got LAFC and FC Dallas. So Dallas, they started well in this game against LAFC, to be fair, but yeah, the rest of the game happened. And the rest of the game, it was pretty much one-way traffic. LAFC dominate this game. Could have maybe made it 3 or 4-0 in this one as well. Delgado with the games for shot, but he missed wide from long range, and this is Patterson Delgado that I'm talking about. There was two Delgado in this one for each team. But not much really happened, at least in the first 10 minutes of this game. Musa would head it set wide from close before Pedrinho would do the same thing in the 14th minute. But I thought it was a lively start for Dallas. They were looking to try to get the opening goal. The first shot for LAFC did see Bawanga had a shot that was denied by Pos, but it was recycled, and Bawanga gets a second crack of it from long range, but unfortunately he didn't put this one on target. But in the 31st minute, Nathan Ordaz was on target. He scored from Bawanga and Delgado to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC. It also comes off a bad turnover from Dallas. Yeah. You can't do that when you're facing against LAFC. You just simply cannot give the ball away cheaply. LAFC is always going to punish you because of that. Tillman then looked for a second, but he missed one in the 37th minute before Moore with a low volley shot that goes right to Lariz. And then a penalty was given to LAFC after Bawanga was brought down by Shaq Moore in the box. So here comes Bawanga, a chance to bury it from the penalty spot. You know Bawanga not going to miss. I mean, if this is not the Club World Cup, you know he's not going to miss from the spot. He's always automatically from the spot in MLS play, and he doesn't miss here. It's 2-0 in favor of LAFC, and you probably say it's game, set, and match in this one, even though I know Dallas has that ability to make games a little interesting. And I think maybe that's kind of what LAFC fought heading into the second half, because they did not stop attacking in the second half. Though Leggett did have the first chance of the second half for Dallas, but he puts it wide from close range. That was kind of all the chances that they would get, at least until near the end of the game, because this is when LAFC really start to ramp up the pressure to try to get the third. It started with Pos denying DeRozan from close range, and then he had a shot that was clear off the line just 1 minute later. Ordaz actually got the rebound here, but couldn't quite put that one on target. That also came off another bad turnover from Dallas. Very lucky they were not punished for the second time tonight. Bawanga would then puts it wide on the free kick. LAFC was definitely on a roll in this one. They were pushing to get that third goal. Bawanga would puts it high from long range, and then he was denied by Pos in the 72nd minute. Bawanga was very active in this one. I mean, he was schooling this Dallas defense, but problem is, besides the penalty kick that he scored, he wasn't really being very good when it comes to finishing. He hasn't scored an open play goal up to this point. So in the 73rd minute, Pos would absolutely rob Abovacid as he was able to tip this one on to the post before Martinez would hit it right to Pos in the 80th minute. Ibovacid would also do the same thing in the 83rd minute. Again, LAFC, they were not backing down. They know that Dallas has the ability to play these crazy game on the road, that yeah, they're gonna try to continue to get that third goal. And it also doesn't help the fact that Dallas defense, yeah, they pretty much kind of checked out in this one. Paz would then deny Martinez from tight angle. I mean, again, if it wasn't for Martin Paz, this game would have been even more ugly, and I feel bad for Martin Paz in this game. This is a typical game where you're a goalkeeper and you have no defensive help. You're just getting completely hung out to dry. Musa would then puts it wide from close. in the 89th minute before Scott would puts it wide on the header as Dallas finally started to show some threat late in this one. But not only the fact that it's a little too late, but I think maybe that's when LAFC realized that, yeah, this game is kind of out of stretch. We're just going to take our foot off the gas and get an easy 2-0 win. It's back-to-back wins for LAFC at home. Both of these games pretty easy for them, not conceding a goal and scoring 5 in the process. The shots in this one, 17 shots for the 10 that Dallas had. 10 shot on goal compared to the one that Dallas has in this game. So Martin Paz, I feel bad for him. He got completely hung out to dry in this game. 6 shots off target for the 7 that Dallas had. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked. Possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that Dallas has in this game. And while LAFC continue to climb up in the standings, remember, they have a lot of game in hand over teams above them. If they keep winning, they are going to rise up in the standings and going to be challenging for those top 3 spots. And I have a feeling that's going to be the case by the time this season it is done. But for Dallas, it's the opposite. I mean, their playoff hope is definitely fading. For me, they have now lost 4 in a row, and yeah, things are falling apart for Peter Quill's side. It's not that they're playing some fun soccer anymore. It's just simply they're just playing bad soccer in these last couple of games. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is DC and the Galaxy. So, like I said, if this was 1996, this would have been a classic kind of game, and it feels like it's been a long time since we've seen both of these teams being good and have a marquee kind of matchup. Though I will say this was a game where the Galaxy they kind of control for about 65 minutes of this, and then they kind of took their foot off the gas, and that was a bad idea for the Galaxy because we know this season they're a team that is very vulnerable heading into the last 15 minutes of the game. They're probably the worst team in terms of trying to close out games because of the amount of goals that they conceded in the last 15 minutes, and they are very lucky the fact that they did not fall into victim again in this one, and probably are very fortunate they were facing against DC in this one because yeah, as much as DC did try hard to tie it late in this one, it was to no avail. In the first half, Peck would have a shot that curls it wide off the deflection before Barraza denied Painso from close range. The Galaxy definitely were a better team early on. They were pressing for the opening goal. Royce would put it wide from close in the 21st minute, but then 2 minutes later, he would be on target as he scored from Nascimento to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. Fagundes then looked for another, but his shot was blocked away. The Galaxy continued to press to get that second goal, but we do head to halftime with the Galaxy leading 1-0. In the second half, Barraza denied Paint so from close in the 49th minute, but he couldn't do anything in the 53rd minute. Although I will say that he couldn't do anything, but he probably should have because while Fagundes scored his 4th goal in the game, I didn't think this was one that was hit very well from Fagundes. Not really a lot of pace. Barraza kind of reacted late in terms of that and couldn't keep this one out. But nevertheless, the Galaxy wouldn't care. They were leading 2-0 up to this point. We're in complete control, and you're thinking, well, game's over, right? I mean, no way DC is gonna come back in this one. Oh yeah, this is the LA Galaxy. I mean, they're a team that are always very vulnerable heading into the latter part of the game, and it showed again because in the 63rd minute, Cervania would have a rare chance for DC, and he actually struck the post. And little did we know that was the spark for this DC team to get going in this game. Benteke would then hits one right to Mikovic. DC finally woke up in this one. For the first 60 minutes, they were pretty much not showing up in this one. They might as well just not even bother traveling in this one, but they finally showed up after that post that was being hit, and we're looking to try to get one back. Leao would hits one right to Mikovic in the 73rd minute before Barraza would deny Peck from a lightning counter attack that the Galaxy has had. But then the 77th minute, DC would make it 2-1. It's Pirani. He scored from Paglo to make it 2-1 in favor of the Galaxy, and you just kind of had a sense that not only that's been coming, but the doubts quickly creep in to this Galaxy side. And I'm pretty sure every Galaxy fans inside that stadium and even Galaxy fans watching this are saying, yep, they're probably going to blow this, aren't they? Because that's just been the story of the season of not able to close out gaming of what has been just a season from hell in terms of their defending camp, camp campaign. Notice how I didn't mention the Galaxy as the defending champion. It really does not feel like they're the defending champion after the disastrous season that this year has had. Herrera would then miss wide on the header. The Galaxy would just hang on for dear life. And like I said, they are a team that is probably the worst in terms of trying to close out game. They have given up the most goal in the last 15 minutes in a game. That obviously could continue because they gave up one in the 77th minute. But on a rare occasion, they held on and get the 2-1 win in this one. The shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 11 that DC had, 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that DC had. Both teams had 2 shots off target, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that DC had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that DC has in this game. And, no disrespect to DC, but I feel like if this was any other team or even a good team against the Galaxy, I'm pretty sure the Galaxy probably would have blow this lead. But that being said, the good news for the Galaxy is that they get their third win of the season. And hey, ever since they got their first win of the season in the middle of the season, they actually been playing relatively well. They haven't lost a lot of game. I think they only lost once ever since they got their first win of the season. Now that being said, do I think they're back in the playoff race? Absolutely not. I mean, they are still a long way from the playoff race. They need to go on just an incredible run, just almost a Nashville SC type of unbeaten run to even came close to being in the discussion of the playoff race. But it is definitely encouraging the fact that the Galaxy has started to find their mojo again and finish the season strong. And remember that they still got Ricky Pooch, that is going to be coming back for this team relatively soon. I think his window of coming back should be pretty close. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not going to rush him because this season is pretty much lost for the Galaxy, especially how they win the first 16 games without a win to begin the season. But speaking of lost season, yeah, it's a lost season for DC again, and again they unable to find that new interim head coach Booz, and just another example of how dysfunctional this team is from top to bottom. Everything is going wrong right now for this DC United side. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this review. And of course, tomorrow I have to do the preview of the midweek action because when you have 3 games in 7 days, I gotta be very busy when it comes to doing reviews, previews, and then previews again. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 6 games that I mentioned in this review. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.